Hey everybody, this is Brett Norman with AgSmarts. We are going to walk through the deployment of a field node sensor. We're going to actually put it in the ground, put its sensors on it, and get it up and running. And wanted to send you this video to walk you through all that. But before we do get a minute, let's kind of talk about all the things that we need to do this. First and foremost, we need actually our field node sensor unit. This is it right here. With all its ports. We've got those covered up right now or enclosed in their quick connect covers, but we'll quickly take those off in order to put the sensors on themselves. The solar panel, this is it has the bracket already mounted on there and the quick connect connector for its mounting. We'll mount that separately on top of the same structure that we put the field node sensor on. But we want to give you flexibility to put that where and at the height that you want it. We'll also put it, go through and walk over here and show you the sensors that we're actually going to connect to it. These are the 3 soil moisture sensing probes that we're going to put out with this unit, and those are going to be buried at varying depths. We have an ambient temperature whip as well. This is a little insulation protector to keep it out of direct sunlight. I'll show you where and how to mount that. Then we have our soil moisture temperature probe as well, and we're going to put this at 6 inches in the soil. So the other things I want to show you are some of the tools that I've chosen to use that you certainly don't have to use. I'm using a wired drill with a 1.5 inch, 24 inch, and 20 inch and a half in width auger bit. That's going to be used to deploy my my sensors, put those in the ground. I've also got a piece of super strut here. You certainly don't have to use this. This is a high gauge super strut piece. You could use T-post or any other structure. It's not a very heavy unit, so it can sit on many different ones. But this is what we've chosen to use. Has some flexibility. And drives pretty nicely. I'll show you that here in just a second. So we'll put both the field node sensor box on this along with the solar panel above it, and let's get started. So first things first is I'm going to take this structure, this super strut piece, and I'm going to plant it. So I was going to show you real quick too, just as a representation. I'm in some winter wheat here that's coming up this spring in Memphis. Certainly wouldn't want to put this unit out here in winter wheat unless it were going to be irrigated. But as a representation of putting it in row, and that's what I'm going to do here right with this this wheat crop. So I'm going to bang on this real quick and get it mounted securely. Right. You can use an auger bit to put these in the ground. Again, if you're that's the application or the setting you want. I like to drive it directly in the soil if it's loose enough in order to get that firm hold. The next thing I'm going to do is actually put the field node sensor in its place. So I'm going to go ahead and close it up. And the super strut again is a nice piece of hardware to use because it has some flexibility as far as the height that you can mount it. Again, depending on your setting, you may not want this boom or this tower, this piece to be up this high. If you had booms and in-season applications, if you were going to leave this out in an annual crop, you may want to actually have it much lower to the ground. And this environmentally sealed box, this gasket here, it can actually sit underwater. Certainly wouldn't be the best environment for it, but it can do that. Once it's closed up, it's sealed. So it can go as low to the ground as you want it. I'm going to put it at about this height here. So I'm going to go ahead and thread through. Bought some simple hardware for it, some toggle bolts, and I'm just going to mount it. get it threaded through here quickly. Again, this is a fairly light unit, so it's, you know, only a couple pounds at the most. You certainly don't have to, you know, crank down on it or anything like that, as long as it's held, you know, in place relatively securely. But I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down there. So it's mounted, the box is mounted there, and you know, open it up, show you again. So I'm going to close it. Now I'm going to go ahead and mount the solar panel. The only difference here is I went ahead and brought a little washer to help it stay a little bit more connected to. The only thing you want to watch for on this is, you can certainly, if you're just using this this connector, that you're mounting it within range. You know, you don't want to put it too far away where you can't actually put it. So I'm going to do that. If you've got a unit that's going above a canopy in an orchard per se, just again make sure that it's able to connect at the connector level. So that height right there seems to be good. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this one, get it started. You know, this bracket here is pretty nice. It's got the hole that I'm using, but it's also got these cutouts on the sides. So you could use U-bolts or you know, other connecting hardware on it. Again, depending on where you're mounting it, we wanted to give you some flexibility on how to do that. So I'm screwing this down, getting pretty close here. One thing you do want to watch on your solar panel, like in any solar panel installation, is this: if you can give this as much southern exposure as possible, that's best. We're facing south here, so that's why I chose this orientation on the solar panel. So now that's in, I'm going to go ahead and connect it. You can see the quick connect. This has three holes there, and those fit into the power port there. So I'm going to just snap it. There it goes, and just screw it in. It's really that easy. So it's hand tight. This is the protective cap. It can just sit there to the side. So the next thing, we've got the unit installed, the solar panel mounted and connected to the box, is to go ahead and bury our soil moisture probes. One thing we could do, actually, would be good, is again, this is the temperature, the ambient temperature probe. So I don't have to bury it. It's measuring the temperature in the air. So I'm going to go ahead and just connect this one since I'm here. I know this is a these are the temperature probe. You can see the white coloring, and those are the temperatures. So the way I'm going to mount this is to actually drape it around and over the unit, bending it just a little bit. The only thing you really want to make sure in mounting an ambient temperature sensor like this is that, again, this isn't oriented up where the sunlight can influence the reading. You want that to be free and clear. And I'm just going to drape it over here, securing it that way. So it's going to measure ambient temperature and be secure from giving us a false reading by being influenced by the sunlight. Alright, so now the fun part is to drill. What I have here, like I mentioned earlier, this is a wire drill, but you can also use a wireless or a cordless drill. I'm gonna plant my soil moisture probes and my temperature probes in row, and you can use a tape measure to measure the depth of the hole, or you can use, like I do here, this is a 24-inch bit, so I know that's 24 inches full. Half of that is 12 inches there. I want to measure at 6, or I want to plant at 6, 12, and 18 inches. So I'm going to use my auger bit as my gauge on planting these soil moisture probes. Again, I'm putting these in row, and I recommend you do that as well. If you have any cultivation or traffic on the off-rows, this will protect the soil moisture probes from that. So here we go, just drilling in. This one's going to be at 6, then I'm going to go out to 12, and then to 18 inches a little bit further down the row. There's my 12. Just kind of double check there. There's my 6. I'm going to go down to my 18-inch in that same row, a little bit further down. These can be closer together. They don't have to be, you know, quite as far apart, but I like to give them a little bit of space. But even if they were right next to one another, you'd be fine. These are gypsum blocks. They're not going to be influenced that much by each other being that close. Dirt. So I've got my 18, 12, and my 6-inch hole. Out of interest, I'm going to put the temperature hole here for the temperature probe, soil temperature. And again, I'm going to put that at 6 inches. It's good, about 6 inches from the soil surface. So, one of the other nice things about using gypsum blocks, these are from Aerometer, they're watermarks, you may know that brand name. This is a granular matrix. What it's measuring is soil tension, so how hard is this to pull soil or moisture in from it once it's planted in the soil. One of the nice things is you don't have to worry about the slurry mix going back into the hole. As long as you have good soil contact, you're going to get a good reading from this. It's measuring resistance, like I mentioned, off of that tension as it's pulling in. So it's one of the other nice things about that is that's very analogous to how the plant is feeding or pulling water off. The harder it is, the drier the soil it is, rather, the harder it is, the more the tension it is to take it into its roots. So it's a nice analogy. So again, I'm simply mixing that in. This is a nice little mix here. Again, I'm making sure that I've got good contact around that probe. I do, and then I just want to backfill. With the soil that came out of that same hole. And one of the things too to remember as you do this is to be very conscious about the depth of each of your holes, because when we go back and connect these, we're going to want to make sure that we do that and tell it on the configuration on the app, on the mobile application on your phone, at what depth each of these ports are. So measuring, or I'm bearing the 12-inch now. Again, kind of reaching down in there, making sure there's no air pockets. Some people like to bring out little buckets of water, glasses of water, pitchers, whatever. Certainly don't have to, especially in a setting like this where you've got nice moist soil already. But that is a trick some folks do to, again, just give yourself more assurance that you're not creating any air pockets around that probe. Kind of talk about some of the features of the soil moisture probe here. As you can kind of see on the temperature and the soil moistures, they're in flex armored cable. A lot of the technology that's out there right now, the probes do not have any protection. They're wires and stuff. So varmints, insects, the environment itself can affect those wires. You don't have that issue with this flex armored cable. It's a really nice application to protect your sensors. So here we go in the 18-inch hole. These guys come in standard 6-foot lengths. You can get them customized at any length. These things can go actually up to 4,000 feet away from this unit. But they'll come standard in the 6-foot, and that's what I've got here. I was just going to mention it's you want to make sure when you drill those holes that you're within a radius of, I would give yourself less than 6 feet, but just so you can make that connection back at the unit. So these units, these sensors can go at any depth. We have customers that use them in permanent crop installations where they're actually going down to you know, 72 inches, 6 foot to measure soil profile way down at the tips of those orchard trees roots, so they know when to recharge that full profile. In row crops, we believe, and recommendation in literature and stuff like that, is you're going to cover the effective root zone of almost every major row crop, annual crop here, at 6, 12, and 18 inches, and that's where the crops are going to be drinking from predominantly as well. Their roots will certainly go down, a tall corn crop, and they'll get down as far as 6 feet themselves, but really where they want to drink and where we believe have read it's beneficial for them is to drink from the upper layers of the soil. So 6, 12, and 18 inches, fairly sufficient. There may be applications in some annual crops where you want to go deeper, but in most row crops, that's going to be good. All right, so we've got those guys planted. Let's put our soil temperature sensor in. Just like I did with the soil moisture probes, gonna knock in a little bit of dirt and then pack it around there, making sure I don't have an air pocket around the temperature probe that would influence and give me a false reading on that. All the hard work's done, now it's the fun stuff. We get to connect them. So we've got our temperature at 6 inches. We've got our 3 soil moisture probes at 6, 12, and 18 inches respectively. Get this hardware out of the way. Tools. Let's make some connections. Again, if you're facing the unit here, the temperature ports are on the left side. So I've already claimed one with the ambient temperature probe. Now I'm going to connect in. Make sure there's no dirt in there. I think we've reused some of these probes. Now I've got her threaded. These don't have to be hand cranked too hard. I mean, once you make the seal and are on the threads, you're environmentally secure. I'm just getting it a little bit hand tight to make sure it doesn't come loose. One of the reasons that I like to give myself some slack is it makes it easier in turn to connect my ports underneath, especially if I'm getting closer to the soil level like I did. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect ports 1, 2, and 3. And I want my 6-inch probe, which I've got these kind of laid out here in order. But I'm going to go ahead and connect my 6-inch probe to port 1, and you can see it. So the ports are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in rows, and they're color-colored blue. So blue is for water. These green ones here, just off the subject a bit, are for the digital inputs. If you had a rain gauge, a flow meter or monitor, energy or water there, those could be used for that. Atmometers to measure ET, really anything with a digital pulse can go into those and be configured to be read. These little field note sensors are predominantly used for temperature and soil moisture, but the nice thing about them is they can actually be a little mini weather station if so desired. So I'm putting in my 12-inch probe right now. And pulling around my 18 inches. Again, just finding those 2 wires, pushing it in, and then threading it. Pretty simple. One of the other features on these probes is this shrink wrap here, heat shrink. That makes it really nice. You may have already watched it. If not, you can go to our website and look at the one where we actually take a unit out of the field. But these protect it both from a connection standpoint, but when you're pulling these sensors out of the field, they really protect the sensors to stay together with the wires and stuff. Alright, so I'm going to get these wires and the unit back in line. Again, kind of keeping them configured out of the row. Most of your annual crops outside of these winter crops, like these winter wheat and stuff, would be much wider, so you'd have a much bigger runway to kind of make sure you're out of the way of implements. Now that's it. Get the dust off my hands real quick. So I'm going to show you real quick inside the unit. Turning that on. There's your SD card. This is your status, and then the reset if you had an error or anything like that. And there'll be other videos to kind of walk you through what you would see. But that unit is on, and it is ready to start measuring. It's already starting to pull measurements from here, store them on its micro SD card, transmit it over Bluetooth to the app. And again, we'll walk you through some of that functionality in another video. But this has been the deployment of a field node sensor with its solar panel, 3 soil moisture probes, 2 temperature, 1 ambient, and 1 soil moisture, or excuse me, 1 soil temperature. And we put these at 6, 12, and 18 inches, and 6 inches on the temperature probe. The only other thing that I forgot to mention earlier when I was putting in the soil moisture probes, there is no configuration on, or calibration that is, on the temperature probes, the aerometer watermarks. The only thing you have to do is soak them overnight if you want immediate, which we did with these, if you want immediate responses. Otherwise, it'll take some time to acclimate into the soil. So you don't have to soak them overnight, but if you want it to start reading immediately, that's what you'd want to do, is to soak those overnight and then deploy them. Well, this has been Brett Norman with AgSmarts, and we just deployed a field node sensor. Thanks for your time and attention, and check out other videos on our website at www.agsmarts.com, or contact us at support@agsmarts.com, or contact us at any time on Twitter @AgSmarts. Thanks. Bye-bye. This has been an instructional video from AgSmarts. Please visit agsmarts.com for more information.